welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back to talk more stuff, and today it's Doctor Who time. It's Saturday, so we're doing something special though. At the end of Season 8, I realized that they ended it with Nick Frost as Santa Claus. And not being the perfect Doctor Who aficionado, it took me a minute to realize that they must be talking about one of the Christmas specials that I've never done before. So we've done, I did a couple of Patreon reviews for Doctor Who specials, The Day of the Doctor, and there was another one, I can't remember what that one was called. But, yeah, real good, Rob. It wasn't that long ago. But today we're going to be talking about Last Christmas, which takes place after the events of Season 8, leading into Season 9. Now, at the end of Season 8, poor Danny Pink, he became a Cyberman and died. He could have come back, but he chose to be, Danny Pink and let this kid that died come back instead. And it was important to him, and it's true to his character. Clara didn't tell the Doctor. She lied and said Danny Pink and her are fine. And the Doctor lied to Clara, saying that he found Gallifrey when he didn't. Because Missy told him that, gave him coordinates and all. It was all a trick. So they go their separate ways and never to be seen again. But at the end of this episode, which kind of has no real place, when you watch this episode, the context of what happens at the end of the 8th season doesn't really match. Just that Santa Claus, played by Nick Frost, is there. But this episode, Clara wakes up. This is different, okay? I'm gonna just tell you this right now, okay? This was really different. I loved all the sci-fi elements mixed with a real hallmarky Christmas type episode. This is full on so saturated in Christmas at some points that I'm not a holiday guy. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, unfortunately for me, and I never got into holidays. We didn't celebrate them, and so after all this time, I don't give a shit. I mean, the best thing about the holidays now is that I have a job that gives me paid paid days off on national holidays. So thank you for there being a Christmas, I guess. Otherwise, I don't care. I just don't care. I get some good deals from like Black Friday and stuff. But anyway, in this episode, there's literally, what's the kind of poem that they say? What's that? 'Twas the night before Christmas and all, Then I heard on the roof, and up on the roof, whatever, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Christmas guy, but I know there's something that has to do with that. And so Santa's crashed on her rooftop, on Clara's rooftop of her flat, as they would call it. We would call it an apartment, or whatever. Or whatever. And it's pretty funny. Nick Frost is a great Santa Claus, because he's just Nick Frost as Santa Claus. I mean, maybe not, he's just not stoned or drunk Nick Frost. He's just Nick Frost as Santa Claus. And he's really sweet and funny, and he's got a couple of elves with him. And the reindeer are all loose and flying around. And it's really funny. It's funny and hilarious because Santa's, trying to act like he's not Santa and he's not doing a very good job of it. And the elves are trying to, actually, kind of sarcastically, really, making a good point about how they, how they're not, trying to hide what they're doing. It's pretty fun. This is a fun scene. And then when we get the Doctor involved, when he shows up, right? And he's like, get in the TARDIS, can't tell you, we gotta go. And she hasn't seen him, and he hasn't seen her, and suddenly they're back together again. And so, what could throw them together again? And what does this have to do with Santa Claus? And I like, the back and forth, because at the end of episode 8, it was revealed that it's Time Lord. Because there was a comment later on in the episode that the sleigh is bigger on the inside, and that's how he fits all the presents, which is really friggin' smart. Of course, it explains everything, because he can just show up then, and he can be in your house. It's a really, really clever way of talking about Santa Claus's powers. That he's just an alien. So I dig that more than almost anything about this episode. It's just the way they explain Santa Claus, and there's some really great stuff. And a lot of times in a lot of shows, you got to wait till the end for the really good payoff, and that's kind of what I feel like is here. Is that there's some fun story in here, but it's a little much for me. Mixing all the other stuff that's going on here, because there's some deep stuff happening between like Clara and the doctor and her history with Danny and everything else. But in the middle of it, we got dream crabs, which is, I love how absurd it is. In fact, Belinda, one of my subscribers here that's been supporting me for a long time, brought up in a comment, about fantasy and reality when we were talking about The Leftovers, another show we review here, and check it out, and about fantasy and reality and how it's all ridiculous. I love that I did not have to wait long. It was in this episode, and I kind of figured she put that in there, but when the doctor says like Happy Easter to Santa, knowing that'd be something that would bother him, and that nobody likes the tangerines. I like their back and forth. They look like kind of like Newman and Seinfeld a little bit here, maybe without as much animosity, but like both of them kind of get under each other's skin a little bit, and we get these things called sleepers, or at least these people call these things sleepers. Don't look or think about them, or they'll attack you and they get on your head. And they're these like creatures that are third party perception. So if you think about them, that's when they come alive. They're in like stasis until somebody thinks about them, and they've been buried under the earth for a while. They come from space, so they crashed here a long time ago, and they've just been waiting for somebody to find them and then think about them, and then they attach themselves to your head, and they put you in like a dreamlike state while they slowly dissolve your head. Fun. But I like it. They're like face huggers. They even say that in the episode. And the doctor doesn't know what anybody's talking about. He's like, that movie Alien. There's a movie called Alien that's really offensive. No wonder aliens are always trying to invade you. Why did you guys let Stephen Moffat go? Because this is good stuff. Like I said, it's really silly, but whatever. So when they get there, they have to try to think of other things to make the dream crabs not attack them. And he brings up Danny Pink. And he starts telling her, like, think of Danny, like, Danny's out there right now, like, shagging somebody else and everything. And it's, knowing what we know and what Clara knows, she slaps him. But it's not his fault. He has no idea that she didn't tell him the truth. And this is when it all comes out. And she's like, well, Danny Pink's dead. He's like, no, he's not. I love that. Because he literally doesn't know. I mean, he means that he was respecting her privacy enough to know that he is dead. Like, he could have looked into this. He could have been a nosy Nelly and use a term like that. And I'm like, well, when did that term even come up? Nosy Nelly? But no, he respected her privacy enough to not do or say anything about it. And so it was a genuine shock to him. And then he tells her, like, eventually, yeah, there's no Gallifrey. So they both know that the reason they've been staying away from each other is because they both own the lion. And then they get attacked by the dream crabs, and then suddenly Santa shows up, riding Rudolph like frickin' the Lone Ranger, and these toys come in, and there's like slinkies and little plastic robots, and I'm like, what the actual fuck is happening right now? Like, what are these toys gonna do to fight these things that jump onto your face? And Santa comes in, and everything just seems to be fine. And I'm just like, okay, fine, this is weird. Fine. Like, it's Doctor Who. I accept it. But he talks about there's an invasion. And enough of these things get down here and the world's basically over. They get on everybody and it's done. Like, who's going to save you? And that's where we get where somebody says, where the doctor says, where they're talking about Santa Claus and fantasy and reality. He's like, the funny thing about fantasy and reality is they're both ridiculous. I love it. I love it. You know, it's so many good lines. I don't know if all the seasons and all the Doctors have lines like this, but it's gonna be hard for me to go like after season 10, go back and leave after Capaldi, man. Like, hopefully, I can really get into Tennant's Run or however wherever you guys want me to start after. They're uh, so he basically is says to Clara like, whatever doesn't seem to be true, interrogate anything because absolutely anything right now could be a lie. And I feel like lies is kind of like a big motif in it. Um, and so the death crabs. Okay, I gotta get all this. So Clara, though, she's taken. She tries to hide under a table. She can't hold off the thoughts of it. They can't get to her quick enough, and she goes. She gets captured. Well, gets a face hugger put on her face, and she goes into the dream state where she dreams of Danny Pink. And Danny is perfect, and Danny is everything she wanted. It's like Christmas for there, and it's a happy time, and but it's immediately undercut by the doctor trying to get her back, trying to warn her, and it won't work, and it gets to be so bad that he goes and lets one of these things get on his face, so that he could go in there and get her. But it takes her memories of how great a person Danny Pink was to bring her out of it. That he, even in her memories of him, he's such a solid dude that he would talk her out of being there with him in a dreamlike state. And so that's how she gets out of it. And then he gets out of it. I forget how he gets out of it. But it all ends up coming down to, like, all these things keep happening. All these ridiculous things keep happening. And he's like, who really rescued us? We were attacked. Who rescued us? And then it makes me go, oh shit. All right, so they're pulling some Inception stuff here because Santa didn't come. They were attacked. When they were attacked, they all went into the dream state. So they're all still there. So then they come up with this like dream test. And they look at the books and it all says that, like, they look at the top line of each page and it's like, we are all dead. And it's like, oh, God. So they're still asleep. So they got to figure out how to wake themselves up again, which means they bring in Santa again. And he comes to rescue them for like a second time. And every single time you think they're awake, they're not. And that's how good these dream crabs are. Is the dreams are so convincing that even when you think you're out and awake, you're not. And so everything about this episode becomes like, you can't believe, like he said, interrogate everything. Everything could be a lie. But everything at first seems okay. Even, and that's where this episode really shines to me, is like in this last part of it. You got to get through like the first 20, 30 minutes because it's like an hour long. And there's nuggets in there, like I said, about them figuring out that the lies to each other and why were they apart. And so they weren't rescued. And now it starts with nightmares. Because they all say, like, they get to this, like, oh, it's a long story. What are you doing here? It was a long story. And they all have that story. Like, why'd you get in the TARDIS? Oh, it's a long story. Ooh. And so then the dreams, like, attack. Through the television, the one guy, he eating the turkey leg all episode, him. He gets pulled through the TV screen. And he dies. He wakes up. Like, the nightmare gets him, and he disappears, which means he woke up. But the thing is, he woke up, he was dead, wherever he is in the world. And it also turns out that they're all networked. None of them are there. Nobody ever went on a mission to the North Pole. These things have come on Earth, like Santa Claus said. Oh my God, do you hear the words coming out of my mouth? Because Santa Claus said a bunch of dream crabs were going to come and invade everybody, and if they get everyone, then it's all over. That's a sentence that I never thought I'd have to say. So we'll have to figure out how to get these things off themselves before they die because they're not really there. So how do you wake yourself up again? And so again, Santa comes to the rescue and starts taking them home, and they start talking it out until they all kind of start to wake up. And then finally, it's Clara and the doctor's turn to wake up. And I know I'm kind of skipping a lot of this because this, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that I just didn't really find that interesting. There was a lot of padding to this episode. They stretched it out, and while there was a lot of these characters, these side characters don't matter. They're all red shirts to me. Just played, by pretty decent actors. In fact, the one girl, I've been banging my head against the wall trying to remember what I remember her from. It's something that I should remember her in, and I'll probably wake up in the middle of the night screaming what she was in, just like, nah! So, I don't literally do that, but I literally will be like, just, wandering. I could leave this room right now and then walk back, and halfway there I'd be like, oh, that's what she was coming, and just fly out of my mouth. So Clara, the doctor leaves, and you think, he woke up, and then Clara's like, well, I'm just going to stay here, and I'm going to sleep a little longer. And then you see the doctor arrive at her flat, and he comes upstairs, and he's like, oh, the face still. And he's like, of course you stayed asleep longer. And he uses the screwdriver, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, okay, so he somehow figured out how to take it off of her? And so it happens, but before he gets it off, I saw on the side of it, I was like, oh shit, she's old. What's going on? And he takes it off, and she's an old woman, and she's like, yeah, you haven't been back here in 62 years. When you left me after our last encounter, you left, and I never remarried, and I never moved on, and I've been here for 62 years, and I never thought I'd see you again, and here he is. He's been traveling, the universe. And so they have this, and it's so freaking sad, because, she never remarried, she never married. She had all these offers to get married, and she, nobody was good enough, and then, she talks about how there was one other that would have been good enough, but, and it's clear about that it was, the doctor, but it was, she was in love with Matt Smith's doctor, right? And that's what I kind of gauged from the beginning of season 8. And she kisses him on the cheek and whatever, and then you realize then, like, he puts the crown on her head, and she's young again, and it goes like, holy crap. That the doctor was still dreaming. He was the one that was still out. And so he wakes up and he freaks out and has to go back again. And she wakes up. They were both still in the dream. So it was still shared dreams. They were both still out. He gets back there again and takes it, it comes off of her. And she's freaking out because she's afraid that she's not, she's still old, because she was she was there in that dream as an old woman, and it was that like fear that they wouldn't see each other, or this would be their fate to never see each other again, and we get the whole thing about second chances, and we're never gonna, I don't even know who to thank, and it's like Santa Claus, was the person who, like, he said, by the end of this you'll thank me, because he says, do you want to wish, right? That's what brings him out of it, when he realizes how, that the situation that they're in, and how he wishes he could go back in time, and then Santa Claus shows up. He's like, do you really wish? And so it makes you wonder throughout the whole thing, like, was Santa Claus, like, what is Santa Claus real? Is Santa Claus, like, if he is real, is he a Time Lord? And, like, was the stuff at the beginning really happened? See, that's where it now, like, even the episode is making me question, like, things, like, that happened in this episode. So what I feel like is for sure that happened is the very beginning happened, where why did they go to the, okay, there was an actual reason to go to the North, wait, was there a real reason to go to the North Pole? Did they ever go to the North Pole? But then the end really happened, right? The end really happened where they got back in the TARDIS together. I'm like, oh God, like really, how much of this is still in the dream world? And that's really good writing. I appreciate that quite a bit. So I know that season 9 will be returning to that next week, uh, next Saturday. So we've got one more season of Clara, and I'm also really excited because despite how I feel about how Game of Thrones ended, my favorite character or my favorite actress from Game of Thrones is going to be on season 9. Maisie Williams is going to be on this season, so I'm really excited. I'm about as excited as as when I found out Tom Hardy was in season 2 of Peaky Blinders. So awesome sauce. So that was really fun. I mean, like I said, I'm not into Christmas, but I'm not gonna cheat you guys out of like episodes and stuff. But I did. I mean, it. I love the ideas that make it smart. Like a lot of the dumb things that I think are dumb end up like making me really think. But it's still like the core story about Clara and the Doctor and their relationship was kind of what draws me even further into this. It's kind of like House, House MD, where the show used to be about the medicine and the mystery, and then it just became just about watching House. And that's kind of how I feel like about this is that, I watch, and there's these crazy stories that are going on, but really all I care about is like the relationships and the characters and how they react to things and how they grow as people and change and that kind of stuff. And it doesn't hurt that like you get like people like Nick Frost and things like that to be in these episodes. And so it's a really sweet episode. I can't like say it's my favorite episode of all time, but I mean I do get some great lines like fantasy and reality are both ridiculous and things like that. But so anyway, like I said, I hope you guys like this. I hope you guys that do watch these like these, especially coming from somebody who's just like I said, I'm just kind of blindly fumbling my way. But as the more I watch, I think I'm getting better at them. And like I said, I probably would have gone way more in depth into this episode if I was more interested in the Christmas aspect of it. Although I will say this, is it just me or do British people or people from the UK like have a different way of looking at Christmas? It seems more like less corporate. It seems more traditional and more about like, I mean, I know Santa Claus is about bringing presents and crap, but like here in America, it's starting to just feel like just so, all about just spending money on crap we don't need. More and more and more, and I mean, the sales start earlier and earlier, and nothing seems to really be about the spirit of Christmas at all, except we like to pretend it does so that we don't feel like complete pieces of shit. But I watch stuff like this that has such an earnestness about Christmas, and maybe it's because I don't watch Christmas stuff, but like when I actually I'm not forced to, I'm choosing to watch this. But oh man, I almost remembered what she was from, and I almost blurted it out like, oh, like I said. But anyway, I don't want to get too, down the rabbit hole on Christmas, but it just seems like there's a different attitude about Christmas in Europe, or at least in the UK. Oh man, it's right there on the tip of my freaking tongue. Oh, all right, wait. If this thing is on, I'm gonna find out. We're finding out right now, okay, everybody? It just has to happen. So like, maybe I'll play. Oh, it's so right there. It's like right there. I could just see her. She's like this kind of Oh man. Yeah, I know this is like dead air, right, or something like that. But I'm gonna like remember it right before I look it up. That's what's great is I'm looking all this stuff up. I'm on IMDb. She reminds me of the girl from Goodfellas. That's what she's reminding me of. She reminds me of the person in Goodfellas that was supposed to take, that was helping Ray Liotta at the end of that movie get the drugs, and she had to put on the hat. She didn't have her lucky hat. But I know that can't be her because that's from like 1991. So who was this lady? That's who I know that's what she's reminding me of, though. And man, my tablet's just a piece of crap. Oh, you know what? So forget it. I'll find out and tell you guys next episode who that person is that I can't remember. But it was the person I was thinking of was the person in Goodfellas. And wow, did this get out of control? So anyway, it ends with, we're going to end this video with Clara putting her head on Santa's shoulders. So if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. You know, we're past 1,000 subscribers, and I've chilled out, and I'm more relaxed, and I'm not worried about things, and we're just trying to make good content here now. I say we like there's a team of people that help me out, but it's just me. When I say we, I mean us. Like, you guys are part of it. So when you watch it, motivation. When you comment, it gives me motivation. So share, blah, blah, blah. You can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. Otherwise, this is Robert Smirking Gun Reviews saying, when this comes out, we'll be watching Watchmen on Monday, animated series. Tuesdays, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Wednesday, Doom Patrol, Thursday, Crime Story, Friday, Leftovers, Mandalorian. So, and then in the middle of that, comic book reviews and other things. Like this week, I just put up my Man in the High Castle Season 4 review if you're interested in that. So, have a great night, and we will see you on the next Doctor Who.